So if you don't know what you own, you're not going to own it very long. So companies have tried almost everything to keep track of tools, from engraving them with tracking codes to painting them different colors. And some of you may even be using a cage or store to stock your tools. But even with all these efforts, tools just seem to vanish and go unaccounted for. And I want to stress in this presentation today, when I mention tools, tools and equipment and Sage ToolOps are interchangeable. It doesn't matter if it's a skill saw or a ladder or a bulldozer or a backhoe. All of those are considered tools or equipment items. They're both treated exactly the same way. So if you hear me say tools or equipment, or I may say both, we're talking about exactly the same thing. Sage ToolOps is going to allow you to track everything from a screwdriver to a crane, to anything, any asset like that that you need to manage. So I wanted to clarify that for sure. The National Equipment Association has estimated that the annual theft of tools and equipment comes in somewhere between $300 million and $1 billion a year, which is astronomical here. You know, some of you may be able to identify this. You know, you're out on the job, you're looking for a tool, you can't find it. Turns out it was sitting around unused, and even worse than that, maybe you're renting a tool that was sitting idle on a job somewhere. Maybe you have delivered a tool to a job site, and a good example would be a gang box, and it didn't have all the components in it that was needed to make that tool useful when it gets on the job. And a gang box is just one example, but it might be a compressor that also requires an air hose, a nail gun, and whatever the case may be. We need to be sure that when these tools are getting transferred to the jobs, that they have everything there that's needed to manage those. A little bit about the history of ToolWatch. So ToolWatch has actually been around for quite some time. Right now, we're in over 400 countries, 4,000 companies, 20 countries. In 1991, the founder, Dan Kopko, was an electrical contractor at the time, found that his tools were slowly disappearing. The thought of spending the time to track these down seemed futile, so Dan decided he was just going to go ahead and develop his own software, and so therefore ToolWatch was born. Recently, Sage partnered with ToolWatch. Many of you know, who've been customers with us for a long time, that we had kind of a gap in our product line, and we've slowly been filling those in over the last few years with Sage Paperless, Sage Service Operations, and we're really excited about this new relationship that we have with ToolWatch. So ToolWatch will help you, as I mentioned, it could be a hand tool, it could be a piece of yellow wire, even materials, consumables on the job and other materials. All of these things can be tracked. So easy to use and delivered through the cloud. Sage ToolOps uses one central database to securely store all of the critical information on all of your warehouse and field operation assets. So it's available 24/7 from anywhere that you have an internet connection. In the field, users can request, and we're going to walk through this, users can, using the mobile device, superintendent in the field can find and search for a tool that he might need and instantly request that. He can see the status of it. He can even see the details of the individual tool to make sure that it's the one that he needs. And once again, this could be, you know, equipment as well as tools. Back in the warehouse, so when the employees in the field are requesting these tools through the cloud, it's automatically setting up transfer requests in the back office there, where warehouse people using their mobile devices, using the Sage mobile app, iPhones or tablets, can fill out these pick tickets. And also users in the field, if they happen to search for the tool, they see where it's at, it's a job located nearby, they can do an express transfer and just bypass that and have that tool transferred directly to their job. For those requests that do go out to the shop or to the job yard, once those are entered into the mobile device, that sets up a service request, a work order transfer request out in the field, out in the back shop, where the shop people now using their mobile devices can pick those items out and have them delivered to the job. Back in the back office, owners and other people, other stakeholders are not having to rehandle information. As you're going to see, we can set up rate sheets for these tools as they get transferred to the job, and automatically have those billings based on individual job rate sheets. There's no more manual rehandling of data. The tracking of your assets, fuel the analytics within Sage ToolOps, help you ensure that your tools are being returned and reduce any unnecessary spending. So all the data they need is available from one centralized source and accessed from multiple avenues. No longer are shareholders and decision makers relying upon cumbersome and inefficient spreadsheets. Currently, Sage 300 customers are able to reference primary fields from your accounting database, such as employees, jobs, and cost codes. And we'll be expanding on this as we move forward. So for the Sage 300 users, right now their jobs, cost codes, employees, equipment, all of those things will synchronize and track with Sage ToolOps. Also with Sage 100, just recently that same synchronization was completed, so that jobs, once again, jobs, cost codes, employees, all of those are pulled back up into the cloud, into Sage ToolOps, so there's no double entry of information in that situation. So as mentioned, in the field, superintendents can use a tablet or an iPhone. They can search for a tool or equipment based in a number of ways if they know anything about it. Typing in keywords, and once they find it, they can arrange to have it transferred directly, or they can send a request back to the warehouse. They can see if the tool that they're looking for is operational, or what the status is, or when it's going to be returned, or who's responsible for it. And as I mentioned, we could track the equipment usage on the job by superintendents being able to enter meter readings, and they could actually scan from their iPhone a barcode if you wanted on that piece of equipment to record hours, or other metrics that will trigger service work orders. And I'm going to show you some examples of that as we go through this. As I mentioned, in the warehouse, now those transfer requests go back into the warehouse. And so people in the warehouse using their mobile devices or computer or scanners can pick those items and have them shipped out to the job. There's also alerts that are going to get triggered to the system when things like low asset levels are there. So maybe you want to set up some reorder points for maybe some of your more consumable tools like screwdrivers, that sort of thing, where you'll get a warning when it drops below a certain level. And as I mentioned before, if I urgently need something on the job site, I can just directly transfer it and have it transferred to my job if it's available. Milestones that are set up for the individual tools and equipment record trigger service work orders. So I can have service events set up based on hours or meter readings or turns. A turn would be when a tool goes from the shop or the yard to a job site and back. Those events are set up in the tool record with all of the parts, all of the instructions, special instructions, any special tools that are needed to fulfill that service request, so that these tools nobody has to stop and think about when something might be repaired, and therefore, when those tools land on the job, they're in working order. And then once again, in the back office, we're eliminating a lot of the paperwork. We're reducing duplicate data entry and errors, reducing job delays. I can find the tool that I need. I know when a tool gets delivered to my job that's going to be in good working condition. We're streamlining the job costs and billing, because as we're transferring these tools and equipment to the job, rate schedules for those jobs are set up that determine what those charges should be. And then those then can be exported currently to your Sage 300. And, on the roadmap, we've got that same functionality we're looking at for Sage 100. And there's all sorts of key performance reporting, such as ROI. We'll look at a couple of examples of that for tools. So, is this tool costing me more than the benefit I'm getting out of it on the jobs, for example? So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the software here. This is what a user might see when they log into Sage ToolOps. On the lower left here, we see the different modules. As we select a module, then we see the options above it that are available for those different modules. We also have some alerts up here, and these alerts can be set up to go to the dashboard. You can also set them up to trigger either messages or emails or text to key individuals who might be responsible for these. And users can kind of set up some of their favorites here based on the way that they use the system. So when they log in, they can very quickly go to the things that they do the most frequently. We've got the applications for tools and equipment, materials and consumables, things like safety vests, glasses, safety glasses, those sorts of things. Pick tickets and transfer modules, service and calibration, where we'll talk about where, once again, you can request a service work order, or a work order can be triggered based on certain milestones that were set up for that. Purchasing, receiving, job cost, and billing. I'm going to jump right into the tools and equipment. This is the tool browser. This is where I can go to find a tool from the back office. In a minute, we're going to see how we do that from the field. I can search for these items in a number of different ways. If we look at the screen here and just see the data that's presented, we can see the barcode, because you will be able to pick items in the warehouse based on barcodes. People in the field can record meter readings based on barcodes and so forth. Serial numbers, kits, I'll get into that in just a second. Description, where that job is currently assigned, who's responsible for that, for those tools or equipment. If I'm going to lay off an employee, it would be nice to know the tools and equipment that they have in their possessions. I could come in here and quickly sort by that and make sure that I recover those tools. We can see when they're to be returned, whatever. So if I'm mobilizing the job from the back office, this is where I might go to pick tools, and I can search for various locations to find the tools that I need. I want to also point out down here, the tools, as I mentioned, tools and equipment are the same in here. It could be a screwdriver, it could be a piece of heavy iron. Another feature that we have are these kits. So the example that I stated earlier in my PowerPoint was the superintendent gang box. We know that when this gang box gets delivered to a site, we want to make sure that it has all of these other tools combined with it when it gets to the site. A compressor, that's another example where we might need an air hose or a nail gun, whatever the case may be. This allows us to group these tools together so that we know when those tools are delivered to the job site that they're going to have everything that they need. And I can very quickly search for tools, and then I can just multi-select using my control key or my shift key, grab a bunch of tools, and have those tools added to a transfer ticket. So it's that easy for me to find something and have that then transfer the ticket. So I knew where those were. Now I would tell it where I want those assigned to. I can assign those to an employee, a location, or both. I'm going to just take this group here, which was Atlanta Botanical Garden, and I'm going to just say we're going to have it go to. It really doesn't matter. We'll have it go to Boston University. These are the jobs. The cost centers are the jobs that would get pulled from your back office, and also the cost codes, because as these tools get transferred to those locations, it's going to look at a rate sheet, as I mentioned earlier. For each one of those, it's going to determine the charges for that particular job. And now it's very easy for me just to process that transfer and have those tools transferred to my job. So it's that easy. If I'm out in the field, I can do the same thing from a mobile device. So if my PowerPoint will cooperate with me again, we're going to take a look at that. This is the Sage Field mobile app on an iPhone. It could be an iPad. It can be a Droid device. This is where I would go, and if I needed a tool for my job, we saw how we did it from the back office. I can just say, there's a couple of ways that I can do it. I just say I can do a search here, and as I search, now it narrows it down into some categories. Do I want to search by a location? Maybe I want to see what tools are available in the Atlanta yard, or in another job site, or that another employee may have. I'm going to search by category because I know the tool I want. I don't know where it's at. I don't know who's responsible for it. I can start typing in part of that tool. And as I type that in, you can see that the system is searching through that. So my device is connected to the cloud, to the back office. I pull up the tool that I need. Now I can see the individual tools. And I can actually open these tools up and I can see what their status is. The specifications, here are my compressors, but is it the exact compressor that I need? Is it in working condition? When is it supposed to be returned? Those sorts of things. Once I select it, then I say add to move ticket. You'll also notice here that there's an option to update the meter. As I mentioned earlier, using your mobile phone, your mobile device, you can hover over a barcode. If I'm recording, I'm operating a backhoe or whatever it is, a motor grader, or my truck. If I want to take a meter reading or record the hours or whatever the case may be, I just take my phone, open the mobile app, hover over the barcode, and then it's going to allow me to then input the hours or whatever the metrics are for that particular tool. The next thing it's going to say is where do you want this transfer to? So I pick my job, I pick my cost code, and then I would submit the ticket. And at that point, then that tool is going to generate a transfer ticket back in the shop or the warehouse where someone then can arrange to have that shipped to my job, or I can do an express transfer and have those directly shipped to there. I'm going to come back to this to the tool browser for just a minute. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to pull up I'm going to browse for a particular category. So as you can see here, we can do by item, type. We can start typing in part of a tool. I'm going to do it by category. So I've got my tools set up by categories, and I'm going to scroll down here to vehicles. So here I've got some vehicles set up. If I want to right-click, so these are vehicles for the botanical garden. So let me clear my browser here, and then if I wanted more vehicles, I could. So those were the vehicles for a specific location. Now I'm looking at all of my vehicles across the board here. Sort these. Once again, if you look at across the top here, you see the serial number, the type, the description, so forth and so on. I'm going to sort these by model number. Tools are grouped in model numbers. A good example of this is a Chevy Silverado. So we might have three 2017 Chevy Silverados. They all have the same characteristics. I'm going to open up one of those tools. So in this tool record, we can see a number of things. We can see the serial number, the license tag, where that's currently located, what its status is, the responsible party, what the current meter reading is, and so forth. I mentioned that these are grouped together in models. So this is one individual tool. If I want to see the model, I'm going to click on this model information. This opens up the model record. Tools are grouped by model. And this does a number of things for us. It enforces consistency. It makes it easier when you're adding tools. And when it comes to service, chances are that each one of these trucks is going to have the same service requirements, and I'll get into that in just a minute. This is the model record. So as we're adding tools to our system, we would add it from the model record. And then any characteristics that might be different about that particular tool would be changed at that particular time. In this record, in this model record here, we can see any special components or any accessories, what the cost is, the service. And I'm going to come back to that in just a second. The stock of that particular item. What did we pay for it? How many do we have? That sort of thing. That's the tool model record. Also, we can do attachments anywhere in the system. So if we wanted to add, say, the manufacturer's operating a link to their website, any object that you can store on your desktop can become an attachment. When a service work order gets entered for this vehicle, it would be nice to have a link that the people in the shop could click on to open up and see what the service components, or if there's any special specifications or calibrations, that sort of thing. I'm going to go back to the individual tool record. In this individual tool record, I'm going to click on the service tab here. This is where we would set up service events. A service event in this case for this truck is when we want every 3,000 miles for a certain service to occur, and we want that to happen automatically. If I open that up, then that's going to let me specify how I want that to occur. For example, every 3,000 miles, and the recurrence might be different for a truck versus a backhoe versus a plasma cutter versus an electric bender. But for my individual pieces of equipment, I'm able to establish different metrics. In this case, it's by meter. So I've said for every 3,000 miles here, I want these certain things to occur. I want these things to occur. Any special instructions, required tools, any of the parts that are required for that service work order. Now the system is going to sit in the background, and as these tools are being used and the meter readings and so forth are being entered from the field, service work orders are automatically going to be triggered into the back office. So if I come over to my service and calibration and go over to my service work orders, I can browse for those. And I'm going to print out one of those service reports. So this is what I've got dual monitors here. So got things popping up in there. This is a service work order example. When this truck reached a certain milestone, it automatically generated this service work order in the back office. So this is going to ensure that when this piece of equipment is, regardless of whether it's a truck, like I said, or a bender or a compressor or skill saw, whatever it might be, that it's in proper working condition. I'll have it breaking down on the job. I'm going to come over next to, so we talked about the tool record, how things might be transferred from the back office and the field, how the service gets triggered, and obviously service requests can be made directly from here. If something just automatically breaks, I could come in here and enter, maybe I heard some scraping in the front end of the truck or whatever. I could enter a service request in the back office, and reminders are going to be sent to the dashboard for the shop people. Hey, there's tools out there that need to be serviced. And these, once again, these can be either manually requested or automatically generated from those service events. Back in the back office, job cost and billing, as we're transferring these tools and equipment to and from jobs in the back office, now we're able to set up rate sheets for these. So I'm going to pull up an example of that. Initially, you might want to set up a rate sheet for all of your tools. That's kind of a master rate sheet. And from that, then you can clone individual jobs. The reason for that might be a number of reasons. Maybe for this particular job, we only have certain work days that we might work, or we might have certain hours. So each job would have its own calendar. Actually, I'm going to look at that for just a second. So over on you have what's called a company calendar, where for the company itself, that is set up for the work weeks, for the work hours, and so forth. Beyond that, those can be cloned and changed. So if a particular job, for some reason, is working on, a 4-day work week versus a 5-day work week, or it's 7 to 4 instead of 8 to 5, or whatever the case may be, as those tools get transferred out there, then those are going to be triggered based on a rate sheet. So here's my calendar for this particular, for the company. And now I can come in and specify what my holidays are. I can set my working hours. This is what would be cloned for the individual job. So here's an example of a rate sheet, and I've got different ways that I can trigger these calculations. I can do them based on days, hours, minutes, whatever the case may be, or an assignment. Maybe some tools that are less expensive and more expendable, we want to charge them out the minute they, the minute that they get charged to a job. We don't expect those to come back. So there's a number of different ways, and this is just an automatic way of generating those particular billing From that, we then get a report, a billing report. This is a good example here. Let's open it up in my. So here's an example of of how these charges. This is built on a particular rate sheet for a job. As these tools got transferred in and out, depending on the method that was used to calculate those hours. And I can do things like I can say, well, I want for an hourly rate. Typically, I would charge this job on an hourly rate, but if it's on the job for more than 6 hours, give it the benefit of the daily rate. Or I can do things like if it's out there for 4 days, give it the benefit of the weekly rate, so forth and so on. So once I set up my master sheet, I can then clone it for the individual jobs that are out there. So another report that might be of interest to some of you would be the ROI report. As we're using these tools and on the job and we're charging them our jobs, what is it costing us to maintain that tool? Maybe we need to retire this tool because it's becoming too expensive for us to operate. As these tools are being serviced back in the shop, we see these service totals show up. This is where we've charged it out to the job. And then we can maybe adjust our billing rate for this tool or make some decisions about, does this tool need to be retired, that sort of thing. If I wanted to get a report of tools by employee, once again, I might need to, if I were to lay off an employee or an employee were leaving, it'd be really nice to be able to come over and just say, okay, show me all the tools that a certain individual is responsible for. And I can do that right here. I could also do it from my browser in the field, and then as I type, it's gonna search my list there, and I'll say, okay, we're getting rid of Vic because he doesn't know how to work his PowerPoint here. So let me clear out my browser here, and we're gonna put in Vic and see what Vic's got out there. And Vic actually doesn't have any, so we can cut him loose right now. But maybe we have, maybe Christopher Allen might have some. So we'll say, I'll clear that out, and we'll go to Christopher and look for Christopher Allen to see what he might have. So I'll just start typing from my browser here, Christopher Allen, and it's going to pull up a list of those tools that Christopher Allen may have. And I've got it searching for 2 people right now. So let me just clear my browser real quickly here and come back. Let me open this back up again, folks. Okay, all right, so here we go. So here we've got all of the tools that Vic is responsible for, and we can go ahead and make sure we get those from Vic before he leaves. Those are just some of the high-level functions of the system. You always know where the important tools and equipment are here with the Safe ToolOps. The employees in the field can locate the tools that they need. They know that when tools land on their job, that they're going to be in working order. Back in the warehouse, as these requests are being made, the people in the warehouse have all the tools they need, and using mobile devices, they can just very quickly fulfill those transfer requests and have those sent out to the field. As tools become due for certain service work orders are automatically set up, once again ensuring that when those tools land on the job that they're operational. And then in the back office, all of the particular stakeholders have all of the information that they need to data captured from the field. That source eliminates all that unnecessary paperwork, reducing errors, providing managers with real-time information. Managers are able to spot potential problems in a timely manner and allowing them to take corrective action before they become bigger problems. Tighter controls reduce tool and equipment theft and loss, and jobs are no longer delayed due to poorly maintained or unavailable equipment. And then, of course, the billing and rate tables automate the billing of tools, equipment, and materials to the jobs, and ROI reports help you quickly identify the tools and equipment that are no longer profitable.